Okay, hello and welcome. Okay, let me quickly tell you about how this session is going to go. I'm going to give you some educational, inspirational fuel that can propel you forward with your life and your creative pursuits and your business, whatever it is you want to apply it to. And all you need to do is decide that your brain and your spirit will put all this information together in a way that is absolutely perfect for you. Okay? This way, if you decide that right now, your mind and your heart can relax and just be open to receiving. So that means that what you're actually physically doing, you can be taking notes, you can just listen, you can be doodling or drawing, you can vacuum the entire house while I'm talking. Whatever you're doing is perfect, and your brain is going to let it in and you're going to assimilate it all. Okay, now after I do a little teaching, then you can come on and ask your questions, or we'll coach on whatever your personal goals, your problems, your desires, your questions. We'll do all of that after I do this, okay? Now, I always love to see your faces. I know some of you have to have your cameras off for whatever reason. That's totally fine. But even if you're in your jammies, know that you can be on camera and everything is welcome here. This is not like it's just a professional space where you have to be uber professional, okay? Totally okay to have your cameras off though. I will keep talking at you. Now, while I'm spotlighted, you should know that my face is the only one being recorded, so you don't have to worry about if you're on camera, you're not being recorded. And also, feel free to raise your virtual hand. You might see it at the bottom of the screen here. And if you have a thought or a question as I'm talking, I will see the order of who's raising their hand and we'll just come to you in order after I'm done. Or alternatively, you can type your questions in the chat on the side. If you're not familiar with Zoom, you can do that anytime and I can read it at the end and we'll address each of everything what you had to say. But most importantly, hear this. You are never behind in this club. You will always hear from me whatever you need to, if I need to catch you up on something that happened yesterday or something you might have missed in a previous session, I will always catch you up before. So you can always go watch the replays in your treasure trove. You will always be caught up. You're perfect coming to this call. I know that feeling of like, I'm behind, I'm late, I've missed so many. That does not exist here. There's just lots of sprinkles of goodness every time you take a bite, every time you take a sip, you get what you need. Now, yesterday on our creativity focus call, this is kind of the call that we'd be focusing towards general life topic issues. But yesterday on the more creativity and spirit focus calls, we talked about three mission critical things that that are really helpful to know when we are creating anytime, anywhere. Number one, we talked about, I'm just catching you up here, that you're either making things something mean, something that works for you, or you're making something mean, something that works against you. So someone could say something, an event could happen, and the way your brain creates the meaning, that meaning can either be working for you or against you, right? Okay. We also talked about how, that saying, a lot of people on the call yesterday had never heard the saying, nature abhors a vacuum. And I gave the example of our houses tend to get filled with stuff because the order of entropy, the order of nature is that it fills in spaces, whether it's chaotically filling it or an organized structure that fills in. And we can use that in our creativity because a lot of times we think creativity means being expansive and creating something new. And that can take a lot of energy to generate that kind of new expansion, right? But if we think of it as filling in where we see a hole or a gap or a need, you know that with your kids or maybe in your jobs or even in cleaning your house, if you see a little need somewhere, it's almost like you don't even have a thought. You just know what you need to do or you have an idea. That's a great way to harness creativity. So we talked about some ways to actually use filling in energy rather than expansive energy when it comes to creativity. And we also talked about how to use opposites like scarcity and abundance, or sadness and happiness, or being dissatisfied and satisfied, instead of using them as one is opposite from the other, we started to talk about how to use them in a way that would be advantageous to you, to your advantage, instead of feeling like you're always fighting the negative and reaching and yearning for the positive. So go watch that video if any of that grabbed your attention. That just gives you a little taste of what it was that we are building on today. Today, we're going to talk about that thing that everyone seems to advise, especially in this manifestation or reach your goals worlds, but we never really drill down on the exact how. So, what I'm talking about is we all say you have to be the person. You have to be the person you want to become in order to become that person. You have to be that person first, conjure that person first. Well, how do you do that when you really have no idea how to do that? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so I'm going to draw you a little picture, or I've drawn you a little picture of how my brain sees this. It's not my own picture. I don't know who came up with it. It's been in lots of books. Um, so I don't know who to credit it to. If you do know, put it in the chat. Maybe Simon Sinek these days is who gets this credit mostly. Um, but it's this, that we all want to become the person who, let's pick an example. We all maybe want to become a person, or I know I have the goal of becoming the person who drinks water, enough water, not too much water, but exactly enough. Let's call it 8 glasses a day for now. I think that recommendation has been changed. But we drink water regularly, we're hydrated, our brains are working properly, our cells are all hydrated, our hormones are working because we simply drink enough water every day. That's the person who we are. We have the habitual habit of it. It's no skin off our back. In fact, we do it without even noticing it. That's who I would love to become, right? Now, how is the process by which I become that person? And usually the how is unknown, especially when we're building a business or getting new clients or becoming a runner or learning how to play more music or becoming more artistic or painting more. Some of those goals, we don't tend to know the exact process of how. Maybe water is a little more obvious, which is why I use it. And then the what is what we, especially in Western cultures, that's what we usually obsess on. As soon as we have an idea of what we want to do, drink 8 glasses of water a day, or play this song perfectly, or be on social media and have a social media following, and or have all these clients, or have their goals be kind of met. We usually start here and we wiggle back and forth between, okay, I know what I want. Now, how do I do it? What do I want? How do I do it? What do I want? How do I do it? And we keep trying things, which is fine. And it's true that in that process, we become the person who tried all the things, beat our head against the wall, but figured some things out. And then eventually we do become the who. I think what we're all reaching for is to make this wiggling process between the what and how we get the what a little less painful. And we see a lot of advertisements that are very easy to click on and devour who say they'll make that process easier. So the one word that I'm going to offer today is that this focusing in on the how, the easy pill, the easy way to it is actions. Now, not just taking a bunch of random actions, but using that creative brain of yours to decide ahead of time on some very tiny, very simple, doable, your brain can see them actions. So I wrote out for you an example of the water example. If my what is I want to drink 8 glasses of water every day because I want to be the person who is just a happily hydrated human with an easy habit of drinking water, then the how, the tiny process that I can actually picture doing the actions of, are filling up glasses of water, drinking them, and then I added a little more detail of, what if I set an alarm on my phone every hour on the hour to say, drink a glass of water? Now, certainly if I did that enough times, the process I would become a human who drank enough water, and probably that would become habitual. The thing that we don't talk about all the time is in this middle part, the action of filling up the glass, getting on the social media, putting on the tennis shoes to go to the gym, whatever the actions are, that we either avoid them because they're foreign or we have some meaning attached to them that is working against us, or there's something that's in our way of doing the action. And that's where I think most people are saying you have to become the person who before you're actually the person who does that. That looks like taking the action even when you don't normally feel like taking the action or it's not what you usually are used to doing. All of these common, usual, regular behaviors have to shift. So just doing the action. I'm not saying you even have to do it happily all the time. Because to be honest, I love going to the gym most of the time, but there are times when I don't love going to the gym and I still do the actions of going to the gym, right? So even though I'm a happy, habitual goer of the gymmer, it doesn't mean that I'm always skipping and singing a song on the way to the gym. That's okay. The who you become is not necessarily a happier version all the time. But in the acting, in the filling up of the glass, in the putting on of the shoes, in the posting of the social media, in the calling of a new contact, those actions do have to occur when we feel like them and when we don't. And I think if we can put our focus on the process here of the how and literally detail out some ideas of actions that we're willing to take for at least a day or a week or a month and start to iterate them very simply, very one at a time. Like, okay, I did fill up the glass at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and 10 a.m., but at 11, I was full of water. I need to skip the 11 a.m. hour and start again at noon. Oh, okay, we learned something. We can iterate and tweak our process, but we have to start doing some actions that we decide ahead of time with our creative little brains so that we can move from the what through the how to the who, and vice versa. Come from the who, do the how so that we get the what. It's kind of like that infinity symbol. It's both ways, but in the middle every time is the actions, are the actions, is the actual process of deciding what you're going to do, trying it out for a while, and then tweaking it. Now, managing our emotions along the way, that's a whole nother topic. So we'll pause there for now and we will take your questions. I see them coming in one at a time.